Bringing over 40 years of experience working with donors, government agencies, citizens, and the private sector, Tetra Tech's water and sanitation team uses proven expertise to address the most pressing water and sanitation challenges of our time. Tetra Tech, leading with science.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. Mwanza Mukuko, the lead sanitation specialist under the Lusaka Sanitation Project, and I, Ruth Kennedy Walker, the current task team leader of the World Bank Project, will be presenting today. This presentation will provide lessons learned for on-site sanitation and fecal sludge management from the Lusaka Sanitation Project. It will discuss how the project aimed to shift the sanitation service provision agenda at scale for low-income communities in Zambia. I will start by giving some background, and Mwanza will go into detail on lessons learned from implementation. Most of Lusaka's population, approximately 70%, live in peri-urban areas. These are commonly high-density, low-income, unplanned neighbourhoods that are unserviced. Sewer networks cover 10 to 14% of Lusaka City's area, with the majority of the population using on-site sanitation of varying types and conditions. Approximately 40% of the city's water supply comes from deep groundwater wells. The map on the screen shows the location of the city of Lusaka's neighbourhoods, their sanitation access, specifically containment facility, overlaid on the groundwater vulnerability map for the city. It clearly depicts a high risk of water contamination for the city's groundwater. The figure on the screen shows the fecal sludge flow diagram from a GIZ study done in 2018. It shows that most of the population is served by on-site sanitation. However, beyond containment, fecal sludge is not well managed. Either is not contained or is not delivered to the treatment plant. It also shows a small percentage of the population which is served by sewage. However, the leakage in the sewage network and treatment is an issue for wastewater too. The full report is available if people are interested. This diagram shows the starting point of sanitation access and management before this program began. In 2011, the government of Zambia developed and approved the Lusaka Sanitation Investment Master Plan, which called for universal coverage of Lusaka province by 2035 through a combination of sewage and on-site sanitation systems. To realise this, the government of Zambia launched a $300 million US dollar Lusaka sanitation program, financed by the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the German government, and the European Investment Bank, with additional grant financing and technical support provided from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and it was implemented by the Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company. The World Bank partnered with the government of Zambia and Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company and contributed $65 million US to the program. It marked the first time the World Bank had funded a standalone sanitation project, incorporating a mix of on-site sanitation, fecal sludge management, and sewer interventions at scale, with around $13 million US earmarked for on-site sanitation and FSM provision, as well as $9 million US for institutional strengthening. On the non-sewage sanitation side, the project aims to finance the construction of 3,500 improved on-site sanitation facilities, the development of key fecal sludge management infrastructure, and the provision of adequate FSM fecal sludge management services to 230,000 residents of two peri-urban areas. The project is also designed to strengthen the Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company's project implementation capacity, including operation and maintenance, maintaining the new facilities, responding better to customer demand, and delivering sanitation services more effectively and efficiently. This slide provides an overview snapshot of the journey from a focus on sewage to more holistically sanitation. The key takeaway from this timeline is that the shift took a long time and involved many different partners and donors to make the theory a reality. To realise the Lusaka Sanitation Investment Plan, the first step was to get the buy-in of the utility, who in turn sought the financing for an urban sanitation project through the Ministry of Finance. To achieve the plan, the Lusaka Sanitation Programme was launched by the Ministry of Finance, and donor funding was crowded to support. The bottom line in this diagram shows the donors and where and when projects were approved. Firstly, in 2015, the African Development Bank and the World Bank projects were approved. Next, at Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company, there also had to be a shift. Business to date had focused on water supply and sewerage, but to really ensure the services required for the majority of Lusaka's population, the utility had to move into the business of on-site sanitation and fecal sludge management. Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company recognised that some areas of the city that will not be sewered in the medium to long term due to technical and socio-economic constraints, and therefore integrated on-site sanitation and fecal sludge management within its overall business strategy, following board approval of that strategy in June 2017. In 2017, the EU and KfW financing was approved, followed by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funding in late 2018. There was also a change in the conditions of the licensing agreement between NOASCO, the regulator, and the utility in April 2019. Following on from this, the structure of the company and staffing was also changed to support sanitation delivery. This included the development of a fully staffed fecal sludge management unit and enhancement in the sewage department. Finally, the Zambia water supply and sanitation policy was updated to reflect the importance of on-site sanitation and fecal sludge management service delivery in 2020. Now over to Mwanza.
Thank you very much, Ruth. So just to pick up where Ruth has left off, I want to just give an approach which we undertook to actually construct the household toilets. As Ruth earlier mentioned, we had to look at the entire sanitation value chain to ensure that we provide services to the people of Lusaka across the entire chain. In terms of the approach for construction of household toilets, we had to consider behavioral aspects to the household and also apply the CWISE framework, which actually looked at the facilities that were delivered to households were equitable, they were safe and also sustainable. We are actually offering the discounts to the first 5,500 toilets that we are constructing. And then the way that the discount was structured was the fact that we had to look at what really matters to the households. In this case, from our behavioral studies, as well as the research, it was realized that households actually consider what they see compared to what was the key for the utility, which is the underground, which is the substructure. So in this case, the household are contributing a discount of 2,400, and while the utility through the project is financing the construction of the substructure. As you can see in the picture, the substructures are actually designed to actually protect the groundwater, which, as Ruth earlier mentioned, is the fact that we have underground, where there are certain situations where we have waterborne diseases that have resulted from the underground water contamination through fecal-oral contamination. With regards to the FSM business, we also had to undertake several research that were also based on the landscape of the FSM in the city, as well as the behavior of the households that were targeted. In this case, from a market assessment, what we actually discovered was the fact that there were a lot of players in the market, and what we had to do when we were trying to develop a strategy was to make sure that we undercut all the informal pit emptying. In this case, what we did was we came up with a fixed price for the household based on the research that we have and also lessons learned in the city. And then we actually tendered out to various service providers who gave us a different tender price for us to actually realize the full cost of offering a service for a household. In this case, you would see in the diagram that we've got what we call a top-up service, which are offering to the service providers, as well as the fixed household payments, which is coming from the households. These providers, these contracts are in two trenches. We have what we call the technology neutral, where I expect the service providers to use mechanical methods to empty the pit latrines, as well as the labor intensive that are only focused on service providers that are using labor methods to empty the latrines. In terms of funds flow, we also had to structure the contracts to ensure that we actually paid for what was offered to the households, the various households. As Ruth earlier mentioned, we have a dedicated department in the utility that looks at FSM, and they're working closely with an independent verification agent who, once the service provider issues their invoice, they're able to verify that the service was offered, and then the households were actually satisfied. We have also developed a scorecard with various KPIs that meets the needs of offering what we call a safe and sustainable service in terms of pit emptying. And then from there, once that is verified, we actually then have to, the service provider offers an invoice, and then we have developed an extra account from the part of Lusaka Water System where the subsidy is offered to the service provider after we are fully satisfied that the service was offered on the customer end, as well as the FSM treatment plant through verifications from our plant operators. So we decided to give you just basically what are the outputs so far based on the approaches that we have employed. In case of the household toilets, we undertook a baseline study in the beginning of the project. And from the baseline study compared to where we are, we decided to take an inline survey after 12 months. We have realized that we have actually seen that more households are actually upgrading their sanitation facilities. But this would mean that we actually saw that initially when we went in the field and we had households, when we were collecting data to develop our delivery mechanisms, most of the households really had facilities that were not considered safe. But based on the information that we have so far, we've seen that most of the households have actually upgraded their facilities to what we are calling what they are commonly known as the Lusaka water and sanitation facilities. In terms of also upgrade, what we have seen also from comparing the baseline information to the inline survey that we undertook last year was the fact that most of these upgrades are actually stimulated by demand from the various households. We have seen an increase of almost 39% people that cited the fact that they upgraded their facility on the basis of demand. I mentioned earlier that the research was mostly focused on the behavioral aspects because we needed to understand, and also in terms of sustainability for the project as well as the utility, it was important that the behavior of the households is actually changed for them to actually adopt these sanitation products and services that you're offering as a utility. With regards to the FSM business, what we have seen also is the fact that we try to focus on really understanding if there's been an impact with the introduction of the service providers in the community. And also, we also looked at how many pits were actually full at baseline compared to what we are calling a mid-inline survey. And what we have seen so far is the fact that we have seen that very few pit latrines are now full compared to baseline. And then also households mentioned the fact that they are actually getting professional services who are emptying the latrines. Previously, it was a case of any family member that could empty the latrine, and they would usually empty the facilities and bury the latrine in their compounds. This has not been the case that we have seen so far, and we actually hope that by the end of the project, and then also with factors that we've put in place for sustainability, that household then should completely move to actually just using professional FSM services. Actually couple all this with regards to financially sustainable services post the project. The utility, with support from the World Bank, undertook a financial study that could help us really come up with information also, as well as data that would present to key stakeholders, in this case being NOSCO. We undertook a financial sustainability study around how we would offer these services post the project. And one thing that has come out from this study is the fact that we'll need to have a surcharge on the water and sanitation service that we are offering. Then that surcharge could then be utilized to extend the implementation of these services and products that have been introduced under the project. This study was commissioned last year, and it gives us various interpretations around what options we could use to ensure that we sustain the service, and also some of the subsidies that we are offering under the project. In terms of some of the key lessons that we've really learned on the project, and just like many other projects in the region where you're offering on-site sanitation as well as sewerage services, one thing that we have learned is the fact that when we design subsidies, we need to address market-specific opportunities and failures, which is what we did in this case. As much as it's important that you are able to learn and copy and paste from other areas, it's important to ensure that these subsidies address your specific failures and opportunities that you have in the current market. Also, one thing that we have learned is the fact that it's important to actually engage the private sector. How does the private sector assist the utility in providing some of the services? The key lessons that has been learned, especially from both of the construction of the household toilets as well as FSM business, is the fact that we have seen the impact that it has by engaging the private sector to ensure that we deliver these services. Another lessons that has been learned is the fact that we need to ensure that we have a very specified, definite transitional plan. In this case, we are looking at a 2 to 5 year period. This offers an institution as well as the utility providing the services to actually pivot some of the designs that were made and decisions that have been made in the project, if at all they are not deemed to be feasible. In this case, we are looking at a 5-year plan where we are trying to draw lessons that we are actually learning this time to ensure that we design better delivery mechanisms and also offer more efficient services. Also, stakeholder consultations. In the case of Lusaka, and Ruth mentioned the fact that you have a lot of other players. We have a regulator, NOSCO, as well as the ministry. So I think the one lessons that we have done on this project, the fact that we had continuous engagements with the key stakeholders, and it was really critical to actually take up certain decisions on the project and also ensure that we're offering products and services that are acceptable and fit in with the policies as well as the regulation of the country. And other lessons we've learned is to turn challenges into opportunities. In 2017, Lusaka had a cholera outbreak where government subsidized the services for emptying. And from this the subsidy that was offered, this is where we actually learned that households were able to afford the payments of emptying for their facility by paying 125 kwacha, which is the reason why we based our initial subsidy for emptying at $12.5. One other key lessons that we have learned is the fact that this to actually transition to offer both sewerage as well as on-site sanitation services is a journey. And I think one thing that has been significant is the fact that we have been able to demonstrate that we are able to improve the sanitation status in a city by combining different methods. So in this case, apart from the construction of household toilets and the FSM business, the Lusaka Sanitation Project is also constructing sewer lines in the city, as well as constructing of the treatment plants. We are positive and also optimistic that through the many challenges that we have in this project, we have an opportunity to learn through these challenges and opportunities, and then inform decision-making as well as other players and also other countries in the region, that there's a step that has to be taken, and there are many decisions along the way that has to be pivoted, as well as also be willing to change and make the changes immediately. So we're saying that you could get online if you want to hear more about the Lusaka Sanitation Program. We are also on Twitter through Lusaka Water and Sewerage. And also would like just to urge all our participants in the FSM6 to post your questions in the comment section attached to this session. And then also consider one of the live discussion forums to keep the conversations going. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I will present one of the case study from one of the city from Bangladesh. The case study is on basically scope of informal PTMTers for citywide FSM service delivery, including reaching slums. My name is Uttam Kumar Saha. I work with Practical Action, Bangladesh Country Office. I'm leading the strategic team. As I said that I will share the case study of Faridpur. So let me share about something about the Faridpur. So in Faridpur, basically we have around 180,000 population over there. And there are 24 slums and more than 20,000 people live in slums. And they have a treatment plant for treating the fecal sludge, which is around 24 cubic meter capacity. Okay, let me share the story. The story actually started in 2014. And we conducted a study and we found that only 10% of the generated sludge are safely managed, and that safely managed is basically a burial system, and the rest of the 90% sludge are going to open environment in many ways. Then we conducted a market system, how the market actually is working in Faridpur. You know that in the market system, we try to understand what are the environment are there, who are in the value chain part for providing the service delivery, and what are the options in supporting services. So in the value chain, in the service value chain, we found that the municipality, through their conservancy department, they have a system for delivering the services. The other big avenue is informal workers are also providing these services. And we found that the municipal services are extremely subsidized, and this is more than 300% subsidized services, whereas the service delivery by the PTMTers is profitable because it is one of their important livelihood option. And we also found that the environment they do not have any specific policy or experience in terms of bringing the private sector to move in. And so we presented these findings to the municipal council, including the mayor and councillors of the municipality. And we presented an improved business model to them. Before presenting the business model, actually, we presented what are the key problems in Faridpur municipality. We found that the major problems are basically three categories. One is there is unsafe and inappropriate containment, both at household levels, at commercial settings, as well as at institutions level. And we saw that the manual emptying and transportation is also in one of the problem, and the indiscriminate dumping of the collected sludge, that is also a problem. So these three problems we identified, and against this, and the other problem which I already mentioned, that the municipal service is extremely subsidized, financially subsidized, whereas the informal MTS-led service is a profitable one. So in against these four problems, actually we sit with municipal council and presented a business model. Okay, so the business model, what we presented to the municipality, so municipality can leave the job for delivering the services because it is subsidized. So what they can do, they can actually deliver the transfer the responsibility for delivering the services to the PTM tier group. Although the PTM tier groups are at that time actually or disorganized, so if PTM tiers group can be really organized and come up with a business cooperative and the organizational system, so the municipality can actually sign lease agreement with those PTM tiers business cooperative or association, and they can provide the Bakutech and other high cost equipment to the cooperative of the informal MTR, and they can actually deliver the services. Whereas and also the PTMTs, they can't dispose their collected waste in different places. They need to bring it to the treatment plant, and municipality need to construct a treatment plant, and the PTMTs cooperative, they will bring the collected sludge to the treatment plant. Whereas the municipality, what they will do they will not be providing the services, but they will be regulating and monitoring the overall quality of the services, how the customers are satisfied, what are the tariffs of the for emptying fee, and maybe what are the user satisfaction, what are the hygienic status of delivering the services, and what are the business performance of the emptying services and the business performance of the treatment plant operation. And similarly, we also advise them that municipal need to hire a third party, private party to operate the business of the treatment plant. So that's the business model we presented to the Faridpur Municipal Council, and they were very happy with this business model, and they agreed, okay, we can work together, but we really don't have any technical capacity as well as also to some extent financial capacity, so we need help. Then we actually approached Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and invited them to support this for implementation of this business model, and they actually agreed with this, and they signed an agreement with the practical action, and we started work in Faridpur. Okay, so the biggest hurdle part or the challenging part was to organize the informal worker community to come up with a cooperative, you know, that and to get the registration from the Department of Cooperatives. So they should have a company, they should have certain standards, they should have the bylaws, and they have different committees. So that was a challenging part, but we frequently sat with the informal worker communities, and we helped them to get to develop two different private companies with the sweeper cooperatives in Faridpur. One Then after the formation of the cooperative, the biggest part was that how municipality will sign the service level agreement with them, and what could be the terms and condition of that service level agreement. I mean, who will provide the operation and maintenance of the equipment cost, what will be the tariff, who will collect the tariff, customer, where the customer will actually contact for the job. So those type of activities, actually we frequently sit with the cooperative members as well as the municipality members as well. So these are the some parts that how we worked with the cooperative members who are the informal MTers. We saw that the delivering the training in the external venue is not enough to train them. So we have to work them on the job training, coaching, mentoring, guiding. That was the tool to build their capacity. Yeah. Now you can see that following the service level agreement, they got the vehicle from the municipality, and they are providing the services, maintaining the occupational health and safety standard. And they are providing the services, that is, the service is totally mechanically dislodging services. No manual labor, manual dislodging is not there. So that's the service they are providing. This is the fecal sludge treatment plant at Faridpur. Basically, this is a biological treatment plant. Basically, there are two types of bed. One is the planted treatment plant, and the another was the unplanted treatment plant. So one of the expert from the UK and some local expert, actually, they work together to get the technology, and the Faridpur municipal engineering section and practical action technical staff, they work together and they build this treatment plant. Okay, so apart from the FSM equipment and infrastructure, we also help the municipality to develop a digital service. I mean, the people, the customers, they are not interested to come to municipal building to get the service. So they can use, they can demand the job through their mobile, through the internet, through other means. So that's the digital service which help them to demonstrate. EFSM, that is the same thing, that how the customers will get the dislodging services at the earliest time. So that's sort of the mechanism that we help the municipality to develop. Yeah. Okay. One of the biggest thing was about the participation of the city dwellers in this improved system. So we found that most of the people actually are illegally discharging their fecal sludge and effluent from the toilet to the surface drains and other water bodies. So one of the biggest things is that how we can motivate them and how we can engage them in this process. So we designed and launched a very comprehensive social mobilization targeting different status, different groups of the city dwellers, starting from the children, the youth, the adolescent, boys, girls, adult men, women, different professionals. We did a lot of mobilization and campaign with different groups in the city. And you know that now the municipality cooperative, there is an NGO who is managing the operation of the treatment plants, and different community organization, and I mean the other government offices. So we realized that municipality should have a multi-stakeholder steering committee to assess the overall status of the improved system, as well as also the overall the satisfaction level of the users, and improvement. I mean to see the to see the changes in disposal, in safely disposal of the fecal sludge. So that's the stakeholder steering committee. They have a steering committee, and every representative from participating stakeholder, participating FSM infrastructure and services, they are member of this stakeholder steering committee. Okay, so we have a monitoring system, how the system is actually growing. We in 2020 we found that the safe disposal of fecal sludge actually increased from 10 to 48%. And right now 40% of the household is a part of this improved system, and everybody actually are receiving the mechanized emptying system, and safe and hygienic disposal is a big issue of the feature of the improved system. Yeah, and we also saw that what are the changes happen due to increase in income of the MTR because of these improved services. what was their situation in the past before the improved system, and what are the situation because of this improved system. We found that now the municipal, the informal worker, they have increased their income. They have almost the job request is almost doubled, and they have access to municipal decision-making system. They have access to deputy commissioner's office, and they have their overall health. I mean, number of lost working days actually has been reduced. So overall productivity has already we found that that was very good feature of this system. So the big change we found in the lives of the MTR, and we saw that they are actually moving from MTR to entrepreneur. Okay, so they basically this was the Faridpur model. We believe that the Faridpur municipality and the one of the project from the LGD, Local Government Engineering Department, they had a project UGIP2, Urban Governance Infrastructure Improvement Project, second phase, and the practical action. We work together, and for LGD found that this is a very good system. Then LGD and the practical action, we work together that how this model can be replicated in their third phase, which is working in 36 municipalities. And right now we are working with the LGD to replicate this model in 4 cities among these 36 cities. We are replicating this transformational model for informal workers in 4 cities in participation of the Egypt 3 program of the LGD. Even the Bangladesh government, they have developed the FSM institutional and regulatory framework. They also highly recommended this model in the framework for scaling up. Yeah, so still the Faridpur case, 60% household are yet not reached. So we have to work on that. And also the expansion of the service of existing cooperatives to all by accessing the additional equipment. The additional equipment is a big issue to provide the services for the rest of the 60% household. And also the operation and maintenance of this backward and other costly items, that is also a big issue. We have to look for better options and solution to problematic equipment. So that's the way forward. Okay, I'm finishing here, and if you have any really question, I will be very happy to provide the answers. Yeah, and many thanks to all of you for listening me. Okay, if you have any questions or comments about what I have covered in my presentation today, please leave them in the comment section. And also please consider joining one of the live discussion sessions to share your thoughts.
Zambia, in collaboration with various partners, conducted a case study to quantify the amounts of solid waste present in pit latrines in 3 peri-urban areas of Lusaka, bringing to light the challenges associated with FSM service delivery and solid waste management.
Hey, good day. My name is Nick Alcock. I'll be speaking on the transforming relationship between eThekwini Water and Sanitation, also known as EWS, and informal service providers. Those are mainly in the sanitation sector. And eThekwini is the city of Durban in South Africa. I just want to introduce my co-writers, in particular Teddy Gandon, who's someone with many years' experience in the municipality itself and looking closely at this transforming relationship. I also want to introduce my 2 colleagues, Ruth Cottingham and Lawrence Ngubani, who've assisted me in this abstract and presentation. Okay, this first slide that I'm showing you is just to give you a typical example of a dense informal settlement in Durban. And what you'll find interesting is that on the ridge behind, there's sort of high-income, high-end office blocks and apartments, and in the foreground you've got people who want to be close to work, and they're in these dense informal settlements with very generally poor services. They often have electricity connections, but the water and sanitation connections are not great, and I'm going to talk about that now. So I'm going to start off with a quote from a resident of one of these dense informal settlements recently, and we were running a particular program, and she said, "Our toilet is clean, it's serviced on time, and helpful with our disabled child. So, I mean, I'm stating the obvious that good service is valuable to residents wherever they live and whatever their socioeconomic status. But it's important for what I'm going to talk about, which is improved services for these residents. And EWS from the City of Durban is pioneering new ways for improved services. So first of all, if you look at the whole sanitation program, starting from containment through to emptying, transport, treatment, and processing, the municipality has had a big focus over the last 10 to 15 years on the containment side. So rolling out infrastructure only. But more recently, they've realized that what's becoming more important is the actual service provision itself and the service providers. So they're wanting to improve those services for the whole value chain, as well as achieve economic development. So this presentation assesses 4 case studies which look at different ways of improving that service. So the first case study, eThekwini have these urine diversion toilets. They sit above ground. The picture on the bottom left shows you someone who's starting to empty it. Now, essentially, they decided that they would provide a free service to these residents, who are mainly in rural areas of the city. And they couldn't contract informal businesses directly. And so the implementation model that they came up with was to appoint a managing contractor via a tender, who would then employ informal businesses below him who would do the actual work on the ground. And together with that, there would be accredited business training to try and support those small businesses to get them to a point by the end of the contract, and it was a 2-year contract, where they would be able to tender for future work themselves. So just some of the findings on the small businesses was that there was poor attendance at the business training. There was poor application of business skills. Only 2 out of 7 was starting to apply some of the skills that they'd learnt. And there was a lot of financial dependence on the contract, which was finite. So a 2-year contract then came to an end, and there wasn't an immediate continuation of that work. And so those businesses struggled to survive. Also, on the customer satisfaction side of the emptying service, it also wasn't great. Some of the satisfaction improved marginally, but in a lot of cases, there was no improvement. The second case study I wanted to look at was a small business that was providing short-term emergency emptying of toilets. It was a small business that was providing a reasonably reliable service, and it was viable. And we wanted to know why this was the case. And in our interviews with this service provider, we found out, first of all, that he was not dependent on on toilet emptying only. He had other aspects to his business. So when the toilet emptying contracts were down, he had other work to sustain him. He also maintained a professional relationship with the municipality, and he was always available. So just starting to give us some pointers to what was successful, with a small business in the sanitation sector. The third case study I wanted to look at was in one of those dense informal settlements that I showed you in the first picture. The municipality provides community ablution blocks, and these are generally on the edge of the settlements, and that's an important issue. There's a male and a female block. They're often these shipping containers that have been converted. They have flush toilets, they have urinals, they have showers, they have wash areas, and there's a caretaker provided. But of course, there are always challenges, and the municipality, this is not a toilet from this particular city, but the city has similar challenges. So they are responsible for all operation and maintenance. And, and cabs can get into a poor condition because there's high use, there's vandalism, there isn't a lot of ownership, and it's a shared community facility. And then, of course, our municipality struggles with procurement challenges. There's quite a time lapse from when you order certain parts to when you get those parts to then do maintenance. And so you often have water leaks, you have blockages that last for quite a few days. And there isn't a direct relationship between the maintenance service provider and the end user themselves. So you have that lack of accountability. The fourth case study, it's the last one, is that a project that we've recently done with the city, which is to test a toilet called the Luwak toilet. It's a container toilet. And basically, when you go into these dense informal settlements, everyone wants the gold standard. They want the flush toilet in their homes, but it's really, really difficult to provide The city basically wants to move all those people in informal settlements and provide them with green fields, new developments. It's just the city doesn't have the space. So it's not practical. And what we found is there needs to be a direct relationship between the resident and the service provider. And you already have that with, say, private TV channels. You'll have a person in a shack and they've got a direct relationship with that TV channel, and they're paying a service monthly. So what the thinking with this particular pilot was that the municipality would only play a regulatory and public health role. They may provide a subsidy for the indigent, but there wouldn't be a time-linked contract. So whoever's providing that service, in this case, this container-based toilet that has to be emptied on a weekly basis, it would carry on as long as the resident was happy with the service. It wouldn't be time-linked. I'm not going to go into the technology of it. Suffice to say that it's got a plastic seal which prevents smell and odor. Okay, just to continue with that case study, as per that first quote that I read to you, the residents, what they liked about this pilot was that the household toilets were clean and it was convenient, because now they didn't have to walk to the edge of their settlement where they could find a communal pollution block. It was right next to their house. And in the baseline survey before the pilot, people felt, no, it was the municipality's responsibility to provide that sanitation service. Whereas at the end, after we'd completed a 3-month program, they started to recognize that the private business that was providing a service, it was reliable. And this was despite the fact that there'd been no prior relationship between residents and a sanitation service provider. They'd always thought, it's the municipality's responsibility. They must provide me with the toilet. So they now found this reliability quite attractive. And they were prepared to pay for services as long as it was reliable. In terms of the political leadership, they were generally positive about it. They saw the value. There was some negativity because, of course, everyone wants that flush toilet, but recognition that this wasn't always practical. Some of the lessons learned was that the use of a time-limited tender with a managing contractor, local informal contractors, was not really sustainable. You know, with that time limit, as soon as there was a lapse in the tender, then those businesses started to become, unviable. Communal systems have high maintenance requirements and limited ownership. The relationship between the municipality and contractors results in maintenance not being undertaken in a cost-effective manner. And there's a lack of direct accountability to the residents, and it makes the service delivery inconsistent. And the other thing we found is that business diversification by these small businesses was really critical for keeping them sustainable and viable. Other lessons learned: top-down government provision of sanitation, which has been a key focus for our government, is really not sustainable in the long run. The municipality is still committed to providing basic levels of sanitation as per the SDGs. So they're not they don't want to get rid of all their responsibility. But the case study 4 clearly illustrated that there are opportunities for demand-driven user-pay services, and where there's a direct relationship between the service provider and the resident. The municipality would still take responsibility for regulation and compliance. And then just to summarize finally, the city is really, through these new approaches, and the city is embracing citywide inclusive sanitation. And there needs to be a focus on the service and service provision by public and private. And partnerships between government and business can work for the poor. And finally, community and political paradigm shifts are possible. We were nervous at the beginning of this project because we really were changing the way we were doing, and there'd been a certain amount of political negativity towards this container-based toilets. But as soon as there was a reliable service and there was a direct link between the service provider and the resident, satisfaction levels increased and people started to see value in that service. Thanks very much for your time, and thank you. If you have any questions or comments about what I've covered in my presentation today, please leave them in the comments section. Please also consider joining one of the live discussion sessions to share your thoughts. You can find a schedule for these sessions on the agenda page.
So, hello everyone. So, you might have heard about associations, groups, consortiums, so many names, and how it has benefiting in social sector. Talking about those things is, I'm not here to talk about these things. And how it has impacted overall into social sector, that is also known to everyone. So in next couple of slides and next couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about how this group association kind of things could benefit fecal sludge management in any city across the globe. So before I get into our work that we did, a project that we have implemented, I would also like you to take you to the background of the work. So the context is that there are Indian cities where around 40 billion liters of sewage is generated daily. 70% of the households are off the grid. They are not connected to the sewer grid. And because of that, the dependency on on-site sanitation systems is very high. And everybody knows that on-site sanitation systems require periodic emptying, transportation, and disposal of fecal sludge. But unfortunately, in 65% of the cities, we do not have this kind of arrangement where fecal sludge can be emptied, collected, transported, and safely disposed. So, in addition to this, though there is no formal arrangement by the government or by the responsible agencies in many cities, but there is a informal market of fecal sludge management or this collection, transportation, and disposal. And this is being, provided by private service providers. We call them tanker operators in usual terms. And unfortunately, this area is extremely unorganized and unregulated. Means it's a sort of illegitimate business because they don't have license. A government does not have any rules or regulation to monitor them, to ensure the services and all. And most of the investment does not come from any formal sector, but these people get loan from their families, or they bring their own money to put into this business to run the business. And the last thing is that there is not much information also available about these tanker operators, which is then it becomes very difficult to understand how this is working, how this is functioning. So I just wanted to put the caveat here that I'm not a researcher, but an implementer. And I will share with you our learning here, that how we implemented the project and what has been our learning or the impact of what we did and what we tried to do. So there is one province called Uttar Pradesh in India, and we are implementing a project on fecal sludge management in 2 cities. They are very close, Lucknow and Kanpur. And the objective of this project is to ensure that the unsafe disposal of fecal sludge is significantly reduced in these 2 cities. They are middle kind of cities, where the population is around 25 to 100,000. And most of the fecal sludge collection is being done by the private tanker operators, as I mentioned in my previous slide. Based on an estimation, we found that around 200,000 liters of fecal sludge is being collected by these tanker operators, but this is being disposed into open land or the water bodies, and we all know that how this is contaminating the surface water or the water bodies. Going further, when we started implementing this project, we thought that how to bring these private operators together. And for that, we wanted to understand what are the challenges that they are facing. So these private tanker operators have, we have divided into 3 buckets: the business challenge, operational challenge, and the social challenges. So under business challenge, as I had mentioned earlier, that it's a illegitimate business, that these businesses are not registered, not authorized by any government entity. So the biggest problem is that this is not legitimate. And second is that though they could play, and they are playing a very critical role in fecal sludge management, but still they have been ignored, or they have not been recognized by the government. And since this is not well monitored, well regulated sector, so people with not so capacity in terms of, I would say, educational background or understanding background, they have very inadequate knowledge to run the business. They have less capacity to operate the business. And the last is that because of these factors, they face many times penalties and harassment by the people from the government at the lower level. So operational challenges are that since they work in silos, they have to put a lot of effort in marketing their services. There is a big price war among these service providers or tanker operators. Because of that, they have to agree on a very less price, and that results into inferior quality service as well. And another thing is that because of this unorganized thing, this is many times dominated by very limited players who have enough money or who have enough resources to remain in this business and put a lot of money. And then there is the financial constraint, because these people are not so educated, not so qualified, working in silos, not interacting with each other. So they also face financial constraint because they cannot ask money from the formal sector or formal financial institutions. So it becomes very difficult for them to bring capital and expand their business or operate their business efficiently. Apart from this, there is a social challenge for these people as well. This profession is not socially respected. And I believe that the reason is, as I mentioned, in the business challenge and operational challenge, we understood that none of them would like to bring their kids into this business. And when they provide these services to the customers, their response is also not very respectful. So these are the manifestation. These things cannot be solved one by one, but we wanted to understand how all these things could be solved and what we should do. So this is the place where we got this idea that if we can form a group and if we can give a legitimate status to this group, probably this will give enough space, opportunity, and a platform to these players to contribute significantly into fecal sludge management in the city. So I'm just sharing here that what was our thought while forming this Tanker Operators Association. So as I have mentioned that what the situation was, and now I'm just mentioning the benefits that we thought when we decided to form a group or an association. So the first reason was that we thought that probably when they come together, they will have a common voice. There will be an amplification in their voice, and government might hear their voice and provide them a legitimate status. Second, the knowledge sharing, which is very important, because based on their experience, how they are running their businesses, how they are effectively operating their business, how they are making profit, what are the nitty-gritties of the business. If there is a platform they can share together, and they can improve their businesses accordingly. And since they were fighting with each other, and there was a price war, probably the smaller entrepreneurs were losing their business. So when we thought about forming this association, this distribution of economic benefit among all was also on priority, so that everybody provides business in the city and makes profit from there. Then there is the informal financing, as I mentioned, that since they were working as an individual, so it was necessary for them to bring capital to expand their business. And the most important was the solidarity between operators against competition, so that they don't only compete, but they should also see where we can provide support each other, so that everybody grows in the business and the customer gets a quality service. And as I mentioned, that this platform was mainly to come together, create a cohesive society where they can solve their own problem, and they can get benefit from there. So I have, based on our experience, which we have in 2 cities, this may not be a cast in stone kind of thing that everywhere this process will be adopted. I'm sharing that we, gone through these steps in activating these associations. So initially it was a startup phase where we mapped all the tanker operators. As I had mentioned in my previous slide, that there is no data available of these service providers. So mapping is must, that cities should know that who are these private tanker operators, what is their business model, what is the size of their tanks, where they, from where they provide these services, what is their jurisdiction. So all these things are required, and this requires some time, because since this is not a legitimate business, it will be very difficult in the beginning for these operators to open up and tell everything to whoever comes to them. So the trust building is very important. Second is that this group should start discussing what are the challenges that they are facing. Then the second phase is where they would need support towards forming the association. So before that, they need to come up their bylaws where the support would be required. They also need to understand how to operate their banks, who is eligible to operate, and all those things. If the support is provided, then the formal registration of these service providers with the government entity. Then the next step is the activation phase. When the association is formed, now the real thing has to start, that they have to be disciplined in their activities, they have to be disciplined in their discussion, and they have to be disciplined in terms of, moving forward. So this support is required. And what we did, that in the beginning, we, guided them to how to conduct meetings, how to record their meetings, and we also encouraged them to go to the government officials alone. That means as a member or representative of the association, and discuss their problems and challenges with them and find solution. It's not that we as an agency always go with them and help them. That is how we provide support to, so that they can move on their own feet. And the last is the exit phase, where it is required for agencies like us to ensure that they are working as it is designed by the association, that they are independently organizing meetings, they are independently keeping records, they have capacity to understand their problems, and also capacity to discuss and raise their voices in front of government. Now I will just briefly tell you how what is the structure of these associations in these two cities. So these associations are registered under Society Registration Act in India. And in these two cities, around 30 to 33 members are there who are part of this association. And this association has a governing body elected through voting, and then there is a general body. Governing body is, they are also called as office bearers. They are responsible for the visibility of the association. They represent the association in various platforms and also conduct meetings, record meetings and all those things. So the burden of running, the association lies with this governing body who are elected by the general body. So just to share with you that these two associations during last 1 year, they have been able to collect around 100,000 rupees since they started working. And this is a fund that may help the association members, that can also can be considered as emergency fund whenever it is required to improve the association as well as the business of the association. Now I will talk about what has been the impact of this association in the cities where we are working. So I have divided this into three parts. That first is self-regulation. So what we observed, that when these associations started working, they become much more responsible. They took their own decision because they were able to meet the government. They were able to participate in other meetings, and from there they gained this knowledge that what is right and what is wrong in the business. So we noticed that they themselves, that means association themselves, prevented members from unsafe disposal, and they encouraged them to use the locations that has been provided by the government for safe disposal. They are also encouraging the members to use personal safety gears to prevent their workers from hazards of this pit emptying. They also decided that they will not work in night, because earlier they were working in nights to hide themselves from the authorities, and they can dispose into at any place in water bodies or the open lands. They also decided that they will not work for the chemical or any other kind of factories. They will remain confined themselves only for collection and transportation of fecal sludge. So this association, also teaching them that how to bring ethics into their business and how to cover all those members in those ethical aspect of running the business. Second is that how they are taking quick decisions. They also they were facing challenge in terms of disposal location, because none of the operator would like to see that they don't want to travel much, because as they travel, they invest more and the returns are low. So they would like to have disposal locations very close to the place where they remove the fecal sludge. So they built pressure to the government to open more and more locations for safe disposal, and they succeeded in that. Secondly, they gathered courage to create a WhatsApp group where they have included the government officials also, and they are able to solve day-to-day problem, day-to-day challenges with those government officials when they are into this group. They also purchased, in fact, association invested money in purchasing the safety gears, so that it becomes habit of the operators to use these safety gears for their workers. And it has also improved the efficiency of their work. Now they are able to provide services quickly, because earlier, since there was no, a platform and everybody was competing, everybody was hiding that where they are working. Now it's open, and whenever anything comes to the association, it is effectively distributed among the members for providing that service, and it has become very quick. And since it is they have become self-regulatory, so they're also very conscious about the type of or the quality of services that they are providing. So all these things have resulted into very important thing for the fecal sludge is that we have noticed that over a period of 1 year, the safe disposal has improved from 300,000 liters per month to 7,200,000 liters per month in one city, and in another it has increased from 450,000 liters per month to 2,150,000 liters per month. So this is a huge change in terms of success of improving fecal sludge or safe fecal sludge disposal in the city. So this is the last slide where I quickly talk about the conclusion where we reached. I think the most important thing that we learned is that any other mechanism may not be so much successful or so much effective for effective fecal sludge management compared to this, because it has many benefits, because these operators have elevated themselves socially and economically as well. Or for any enterprise, these two are the primary things through which they can remain in the business, and business can also sustain. It has increased their negotiating power. They are taking quick collective decisions. They are bringing new ideas on the platform, and this is how the whole this unregulated or informal sector is growing. So the idea is that if we apply a transparent process and we can train them or educate them on their responsibilities and can provide hand-holding for a certain duration, probably they can do wonder, and that will be very beneficial and much more useful for the fecal sludge management sector. So I will stop here. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you so much.